And here we have been talking nonstop about the devastating impact that not having a season would have on all of these universities and how imperative it is that these players go out there and play. And Laura, here's a coach about as high profile as it gets saying we should stop talking about that. I for one, give him a lot of credit for saying that.
Yeah, and you know what, Greeny? He's actually maintained that this whole time. Kirby Smart, even when I spoke to him, I know Paul has too, about a month ago, he was saying that the health and safety of the student athletes should be the only thing we're concerned about. He was one of those initially saying that if it's not safe for fans to be in the stands, and why should it be safe for our players to be able to play on the field? And so I think that's key in all of this. And as all these coaches start trying to look at what the options are here, they're trying to weigh, the health and safety of their players and also the long-term viability of football and other sports at their universities. And so it's a complicated thing to weigh, but it's actually not that complicated because we're talking about real people here. One thing before we get Paul involved here that I think is important is that there wasn't any sort of implementation of exactly what needed to happen at each university for welcoming their students back, student athletes back when it comes to testing. But Georgia is one university that's decided to give both coronavirus tests and antibody tests just because Kirby Smart and other administrators there felt like it was important to provide the antibody test as well.
Yeah, I think it is. It's obviously expensive, and that also factors into this somewhere along the line. Paul, what do you think?
It's extraordinary, and he's not the only one. And in fact, Greeny, I talked to Will Muschamp yesterday, and I know we talked to him here a couple of weeks ago, and he made a very distinct point. He said, we're bringing our assistant coaches in now. The offense comes in the morning, the defense in the afternoon. They wear masks. And when we get the players in, we're going to disinfect. And I asked him, I said, is everyone going to be wearing a mask? He said, yes. And I think more coaches need to make this statement. We talked about Nick Saban the other day. We heard from Will yesterday and Kirby as well, but there are just too many people that laugh at this, especially in various regions of the country. And I'm less concerned about the football players and I'm less concerned about the coaches than I am about the fans disregarding all the guidelines we're getting from everyone else.
All right, that's well said. I want to show you guys something else that happened yesterday because, Laura, here's a question that we've raised a few times, and maybe at least in one spot we found an answer. It comes from a tweet from our college football reporter, Adam Rittenberg, who was quoting the athletic director at Iowa and saying, quote, any athlete who chooses not to train or compete this year because of COVID-19 concerns faces no penalty with their status or scholarship. He acknowledges until there's a vaccine, everyone faces some level of risk. Now, boy, that opens up a very interesting line of, again, first and foremost, we applaud it, right? Because you can't make these kids go back and do something if they don't feel safe doing it. But at the same time, if a whole bunch of people feel that way, Laura, it gets very complicated. So where does that go?
Yeah, what Gary Barta said to Adam Rittenberg is monumental, I think, in all of this. And when we look back at the way that this has played out and the way that it will continue to play out, there's so much unknown. But this is a moment where I think a lot of people are going to have to pay attention. Now that somebody, an administrator, a decision maker, has come out and said, we're going to honor these scholarships no matter what happens, basically, there's really not an option for other people to go and say, well, we're not going to. I mean, it just makes people look bad. And it's more important than that because that is the right thing to do. And so once someone has come out and said that, and this is really, by my knowledge, the first time that someone has publicly said something like this as it relates to the scholarships, I think that it provides an opportunity for everyone to hopefully keep their scholarships. And that is really key here when we talk about the risk that so many may be taking and just the uncertainty here. It's a question that so many student athletes have even asked to me, and I have not had the answers. I think this is a moment that really is monumental in all of it.
Paul, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, Greeny, you know me. I'm the cynical one. I'm the kid in third grade who threw the spitball at the teacher and then pointed at Laura as the culprit. But what Gary said there is very true. And it has to be said. And not only does it have to be said, it has to be enacted. Most responsible people will follow this, but there'll be a bonehead coach somewhere who disregards all reality and will throw some poor guy off the team because he didn't feel comfortable showing up, and the media will lapse into that. Now, I hope more will follow suit, but I'm not as confident as the group of us are right now. As intelligent a statement it is, I think there's some idiots in college football who will make mistakes that will undo what Gary said yesterday.
Yeah, I'm on the cynical side of this stuff as well. And so that, Laura, I don't know that all people understand who are watching that these scholarships are not guaranteed to these kids. They can be revoked for any number of reasons. Yeah. And so I think we all have to remain vigilant to make sure this, Laura, is not one of those reasons.
Absolutely. And I think it's something that all of us will at least try our best to keep putting out there as, right and wrong here. And look, I mean, as so much of this still remains to be figured out, guys, there have been a lot of ADs, even some presidents that I've spoken to. Paul, I'm sure you've had some of these same conversations that have said, we really will try to do everything that we can to honor these scholarships no matter what. But they're going to have to really stick with that. And I haven't heard anything super concrete until this Iowa AD spoke out.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.